Hey loves, welcome to Starseed Evolution. I'm so glad you're here because today we're going to talk about the 3 reasons why it's so important that you be creative, that you show your creativity, and that you share it with us. So on this path, we are on an earth journey. This is an experiment, it's exploration. And each of us has come here with different talents and different gifts. And within astrology, we acknowledge that we're all here to learn something. We're all here to teach something, each and every one of us, and it is visible within the birth chart. You can see what a person has come here to teach. You can see what a person has come here to learn. And through our creativity, we're actually able to give that a channel. We're actually able to express that. And in keeping with, the astrological beliefs, we are all an emanation of source energy, and source energy is the absolute height of creativity. And so we come from a creative source, meaning that we are naturally creative. It may be necessary to redefine creativity because some people immediately assume it has to do with painting, singing, the performing arts, basically, writing. And that's not actually what creativity is at its core. That's kind of a more expressive form of creativity. In the end, creativity is taking what is within you, the beauty within you, and bringing it out into some form. Now, for some people that may be technological, some people that may be the way they teach. For other people, it may be the way they cook, the way they care for their loved ones. Each of us express that in a completely different way. And it's important for you to identify your form of creativity, to ask yourself, what is it that brings me joy? What is it that people often thank me for? Because sometimes in interacting with others, we become more self-aware. So it can also be useful to ask oneself, what do people often thank me for? What are people often pointing out as a positive attribute that I bring to the group, that I bring to the community? What is something that I recognize that I often bring to the community? What is something that I enjoy, that makes me laugh, makes me smile, that gives me a sense of being a gift, of being useful? Asking all of these questions to really find out what is the form of creativity that I enjoy most. What is a form of creativity where I'm able to have an impact? And to spend time with that, and then give yourself the opportunity and the permission to do it more often. Because not only when you are creative do you give yourself an opportunity to bless yourself by being who you are and being the truth of who you are, but you also bless the community. Which brings me to my first point. The first reason why you should share your creativity is that the community needs you. Now, the community, you can imagine, is a body, and the community can show up in different forms. It could be family, it could be a group of friends, it could be school, it could be your literal community around your home. Community can take a lot of different forms, and each community can be considered a body. And that body each has members that fulfill a very specific function. And you as a member, when you come in your complete authenticity, connected to the truth of who you are, you also bring something with you that is absolutely necessary for the community. And so by being yourself and by bringing all of that beauty you have within outward, you're also able to bless the community and to support the community. And what's important to remember in such situations is that it's absolutely imperative that we be our true selves in such moments. If we try to mimic others, or if we try to give based on conditioning, then oftentimes we'll contaminate our own gifts. We'll distort what it is that's actually beautiful and present within us in its own innate form. And so in such cases, trust that the community needs your personal form of ingenuity and resourcefulness. So if you imagine the community as a body, for example, the body tends to have hands, feet, knees, Now, if everybody's showing up as a knee, that body's not going to function properly. If no one's bothering to show up as the stomach, to show up as the hands, to show up as the face, the body will not function properly if the entire community is trying to fill one function. But if everyone in the community shows up in their own authenticity, you will most likely find that the body is whole and complete and able to give and to be and to move in the way that it is meant to. So trust, even though it's uncomfortable and even though the community itself may question it, trust your authenticity and show up in the way that you know is in alignment with the truth of who you are and in alignment with the compassion and the love that you feel within. Oftentimes, it may take a bit of a paradigm shift to be courageous enough to do that. One of my favorite philosophers, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who is also a pastor, he said, it's easy to be yourself in solitude. And I'm paraphrasing. It's easy to be yourself in solitude. And it's easy to be like the crowd when you're in the crowd. But the great man is the person who can be themselves within the crowd, who can be themselves just as they are when they're alone within the crowd. So mastering the ability to be yourself, even amongst others who might have other expectations of you, is a form of self-mastery that is absolutely essential, not just for the self, but also for the community. Because whenever you give yourself permission to be yourself within the group, you give others permission to do the same. You start a wave that has the power to really overtake the group and really cause a paradigm shift, to really cause a new foundation to form that actually puts the community in a much stronger place. The second reason I would encourage you to share your creativity is because we absolutely need to learn the gift of courage. And we can learn courage best when we go out and when we try new things, do new things, put ourselves in situations where we feel vulnerable. Maya Angelou, the poet, as well as ancient Greek philosophers, noted many times how important the virtue of courage is in order to live the truth of who we are, in order to live in alignment with our values. And so when you consider the importance of courage in our lives, it's definitely a skill that we should cultivate. It's not one that we should assume we're born with, but one that we can actually foster and support. And one way we can do that is by getting out and sharing our creativity, because often when we're doing something that's important to us, we put ourselves in a position to feel vulnerable. And that vulnerability will teach us courage. Moving even when we feel uncomfortable, moving even when we feel vulnerable, afraid, is actually the best way to foster courage. And so when we move, despite fear, we give ourselves the opportunity to focus on the goal. Because sometimes fear may accompany us on a path, but fear is never the goal. And that is where sometimes people might get mixed up, because they start to focus on fear as if it's the goal. But the fear can sometimes be a companion that just wants to protect us. And so if we acknowledge fear as an opportunity for protection, but not as a necessity, then we can give it a role. We can allow it to be present, but not to take over, because our focus is on the goal. And you see a lot of research within sports psychology about how important it is to meditate, how important it is to quiet the mind, to give fear a role, but not to allow it to take over, because it distracts the brain from the operating model. It's no longer able to do what it's actually showing up to do, to perform in the way that it's intending to perform. So by acknowledging that fear may be present on the journey, but that it is not the focus and not the goal, and by choosing actively to focus on the goal, we give ourselves the opportunity to perform according to what it is that we're actually capable of. And in the process, we foster courage. We teach ourselves to be brave, to be courageous, to honor ourselves and to honor our capability. The third reason that it's important for you to share your creativity is because it fosters self-knowledge. And on this path, there is no one who it's more important to know well than to know yourself, because you're going to spend your entire life with yourself, whether you like it or not. You are stuck with you. And I mean that in the most positive way possible, because whether you realize it or not, you are beautiful. You're a majestic creation. And we need you to love yourself, because when you love yourself, how you bring yourself and all that creativity forward is manifested in a way that is really genuinely deserving and worthy of who you are. And when you do that, we come back full circle where the community benefits. Because when you give yourself permission to be yourself and to show up in the truth of who you are, again, you indirectly and in some cases directly give other people permission to do the same, so that everybody's showing up in the fullness of who they are. And that is a ripple or a wave that you started by being courageous, by allowing yourself to be vulnerable, by giving yourself the opportunity to get to know yourself on the deepest level possible. And so when we're creative, we're teaching ourselves what we want and what we don't want. Now, what I noticed on my path is that sometimes when people aren't quite sure what it is that they want, they won't go at all. They'll just wait until they're sure, and then they'll go. To me, that's a mistake. Personally, I think we're here to make mistakes. So I think it's still valuable. If one chooses not to do that, it's still valuable because we're here to learn. Personally, I believe on my path, what I've learned is that by going out and by being creative, by taking action, I've actually learned what I like and what I don't like, what fits me and what doesn't fit me. So in the process, I'm learning about myself, and it helps me then to really get clear on what it is that I want in co-creation with the universe, as well as in determining what it is that I want to create, getting clear on my desires. Because then once I'm taking action and I'm being creative, I'm giving myself an opportunity to really understand what is it that feeds me? What is it that lights me up? What is it that makes me happy? And as I learn that, I'm able to pick and choose what it is that I want to do. Now, sometimes there are tasks that are actually necessary that aren't fun. And we do need to be aware of those, aware of the ones that we need to keep, such as I think different bureaucratic things are less fun for me, but nevertheless necessary. So those are things that I might need to keep. But in some of the tasks that I do that are more creative, I have more of a power to decide where do I want to continue to pursue that and where might I like to let something go. And it's only through being creative and giving myself the opportunity to be creative in the sense of coming up with new ideas and be creative in the sense of actually taking action that will really help me to find out where my path is actually headed. Now, one thing that I've noticed that people often do is that first they'll be very pragmatic. They'll say, oh, I can't do this because of this, or I can't do that because of that. And then they'll try to move into a space of creativity. In my opinion, when you start out with pragmatism and practicality, you've often already suffocated the creativity. I believe that it's first important to be creative. Write down your ideas. Just dream big, whatever you want. It can be something as ridiculous as taking a walk to the moon. Just give yourself space to be creative and to trigger your imagination, because imagination is one of the most powerful forces here on the earth plane. That's why people talk about the power of visualization. You know, the imagination is quite a powerful force. So give yourself the opportunity to be creative, and then you can balance it out with the mind and with pragmatism, with practicality. Then you can start to weed through and to filter, to take action and to see what actually feels good to you, what actually works and what doesn't. So those are my 3 reasons of why it's important to share your creativity in different ways, how you can do it. I just think that the community benefits when the individual really gives themselves the opportunity to explore, because the community is only as strong as each of its individuals, and the individual is only as strong as the individual allows themselves to be themselves, to discover themselves, to explore, and then to express what it is that they find. So I hope that I could be encouraging to you to get out there and to allow the essence, the divine essence within you, to just rise and to express itself, and thereby bless me along the way. So I hope that was helpful to you. Feel free to leave a comment below and let me know, how is it that you're creative? What is your version, expression of creativity? And I hope to see you in the next video so that we can together continue to transform and to grow.